The leaked Tory memo predicts a double by-election defeat, blaming enormous discontent on Nadine Dorries. Going to read into this exclusive from Sky News, guys. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is REGANELITE here with an exclusive from Sky News with the headline that a leaked Tory memo predicts a double by-election defeat, blaming enormous discontent on Nadine Dorries. Sky News obtained a memo to Greg Hands, the Conservative Party chairman, outlining concerns that the party's vote share could drop to about 30% in the two crunch by-elections this week. A leaked Tory memo. Interesting, to say the least, that's for sure. So, obviously, this Thursday is going to be the by-elections of Mid Bedfordshire and what was the other one? I'm losing my mind. Mid Bedfordshire and Tamworth. So both of them are going to be up for grabs, and it will be interesting to see how they go. That is for sure. And it looks like rather than the Conservative Party taking ownership and responsibility for its defeats, because that's one thing this Conservative Party is very good, they take responsibility for their actions, don't they, guys? No, of course they don't. They don't take any responsibility. They're always looking to blame someone else for their problems. Let's be serious now for a second. You know, they always blame it, whether it's the pandemic, blame Putin, blame Ukraine, blame the EU, or blame someone else. Like, yeah, just not going to take responsibility. They blamed Labour, even though Labour haven't been in power for 13 years as well. That's the thing. They have to keep blaming someone else for their problems, you know. So, if I'm brutally honest, you know, if they lose these two seats, it's because of their failures as a government, and also their failures to do what's right for the constituencies of those places. So there we go. Sky News obtained a memo to Greg Hands, the Conservative Party chairman, outlining concerns that the party's vote share could drop to about 30% in the two crunch by-elections this week. The Conservative HQ is claiming the Tories' vote share in the two upcoming by-elections could halve to around 30% based on telephone canvass data over in recent days. The resignation of two Tory MPs have triggered by-elections this Thursday in Tamworth, Staffordshire and Mid Bedfordshire, with the parties fighting hard to hold on to both. Parties officials said the delay over Nadine Dorries quitting the Commons had caused enormous discontent. I'm not surprised. There is little concrete data to go on, with consistent polling unreliable and the political parties often only able to see what is going on with their own data. Sky News had obtained a memo to Greg Hands, the Conservative Party chairman, from a senior official at the party HQ. It said in the Mid Bedfordshire by-election, the latest internal polling had suggested the party would get a vote share of 30%. This is half the 60% that Ms Dorries won for the Tories in 2019, with Labour on 22% and the Lib Dems on 12%. However, in this by-election contest, it has turned into a three-horse race where there is a path to a Tory victory, even if its vote share drops to 30%. The Conservatives asserted that they are on course to lose. The memo also said that Tamworth data collected over the past 10 days indicate a likely Conservative vote share in the region of 28% to 33%. The Staffordshire seat is a straight fight between the Tories and Labour, and a drop of this scale would mean that the Tories losing the seat. In 2019, Chris Pincher got 66% of the vote, with Labour on 24%. Labour is likely to say that this leaked memo is simply expectation management. Sources have previously said it was a moonshot to win both seats. So, obviously, Nadine Dorries' long-term absence for her constituency in Mid Bedfordshire was an absolute right headache, yeah, for everyone, I would say, not just for her constituency in Mid Bedfordshire, but also for the Conservative MPs. It was an absolute right headache for them because they were getting. It was bad publicity for them, and it's just undemocratic, really. But the problem is that pretty sure I covered it in a short sort of video, that it was a legal thing. There was nothing that anyone could kind of do. You couldn't force the issue, really. And the only reason she was holding on, and rather than actually quitting when she said she was going to resign, was because she wanted a seat in the House of Lords that she was given by Boris Johnson. And it was just so ridiculous. Well, I mean, we're so glad that she's gone, because she really was a terrible, terrible MP. You know, I still wonder to this day, how did she get in? But then, you know, it wasn't about the person they were voting for, it was all about the party. And she really, really was not there for her constituency. You know, throughout that whole time, I think it was Politics Show or one or two others who basically went down there to her constituency and spoke to spoke to the people down there, and they were basically saying, "Where's our MP?" Like, she said she was going to resign, but she hadn't resigned, and it was a joke. The whole thing was a joke. And then there's Chris Pincher and everything that went on with him. I mean, well, I should say before we move on to Chris Pincher, obviously, the Mid Bedfordshire by-election is going to be a straight-up three-horse race between the Conservatives, Lib Dem and Labour. There is an outside possibility that the Conservatives could still hold on to it because of a split vote between Labour and the Lib Dems. That is a possibility. I also believe that in both of these seats that there could be a case that Conservative voters are simply just not going to turn up and vote because they would rather not vote at all than vote for their enemy. That's just how some voters are. Some of them may vote Labour. Some will probably more likely vote Lib Dem rather than vote for Labour. Some MPs who may have only just voted for the first time Conservative in 2019 and have never voted Conservative again. Those who have voted Conservative before will probably likely, if they're going to vote, they're probably going to vote Lib Dem rather than Labour. So there is a good shot for Lib Dems to go at in the Mid Bedfordshire one. Now, as for the Tamworth one, obviously Chris Pincher, we know about this guy's history. And this one is a straight out shootout between the Conservatives and Labour. So you would think that this one is a shoe horse for Labour, but again, just because polling says one thing doesn't mean it's always guaranteed. If they put enough money into it, if the campaign is good enough, all the way between now and Thursday, then they should have they should end up with a good result for them. But it's crazy to see how many seats they have lost. It really, really is. The Staffordshire seat is a straight fight between the Tories and Labour. Oh, I read that already, sorry. But interesting to say the least. The memo analyses the change in vote and acknowledges that in both seats the reiteration rate, the ability to ensure Tory voters in 2019 vote Tory again on Thursday, is low. The only comfort cited from the memo is that in Mid Bedfordshire only 5% of the Tories are switching all the way to Labour, while in Tamworth the figure is 8%. Yeah, so a very small number, as I just predicted, are gonna switch to Labour, and the figure is also 8%. So it's a bit higher, little bit, only a small amount, but a little bit higher there. The vast majority of defectors said they're unlikely to vote rather than vote for the opposition candidate, it says. The memo suggested that the party is preparing to blame Ms Dorries and Mr Pincher personally in the event that they lose either seat. Yeah, of course, as I said, it's not the government's fault that they've lost the seat. It's not the Conservative Party's 13 years of austerity that is the reason they're going to lose these seats. No, nothing to do with that at all. Partygate, crumbling NHS, failed cost of living crisis, trade barriers to our partners across the pond. No, none of that's the Conservatives' fault, obviously. The memo says, we have always known the cause of these by-elections, i.e. MPs associated with our party's challenges last year standing down, who are personally associated with negative news and stories. It would hinder our performance, as was the case in Selby and Somerton and From. Yeah, that was a massive shock. That was a big one, that was. The data, well, I say shock, it wasn't to some people. The data and doorstep feedback proves this to be the case. Many former Conservative voters say they like Festus and Bussey, and once they find out about this record as PCC, Police and Crime Commissioner, and his determination to do an effective job as their local MP. Many voters still will raise Nadine Dorries on her record and the doorstep unprompted. As this was found to be the case in the post-by-election research carried out by Salisbury and Ainsbury by-election regarding Nigel Adams, many voters clearly associate Nadine Dorries and Chris Pincher with the party's difficulties of last year. There is more anger directed at Ms Dorries than Ms Pincher than the memo suggested, but more importantly, at Mid Bedfordshire, voters dissatisfied with Ms Nadine Dorries' decision to delay her resignation had created enormous discontent with the party more generally, added. Despite positive views towards both Festus and the Prime Minister, many voters are still canvassing and callers they're determined to use their abstention as a tool to express their discontent with both the politics of last year and Nadine Dorries personally. Likewise, doorstep feedback suggests our candidate in Tamworth is regarded favourable due to his local record and personal backstory. However, this is sufficient to significantly alter the likely result. It will still be interesting to see nonetheless, guys. Interesting memo, that is for sure, that's been leaked here. But is this going to make it? What does this tell us? Is it, I think it still doesn't really say to us a definitive factor in the outcome of these by-elections. But to me, what it sticks out to me more than anything is that, if we lose these, we're just going to blame the Chris Pincher and Nadine Dorries rather than taking any ownership and responsibility to it. That's kind of how I see this, really. And I would like Labour to win both of them, if I'm personally honest. Got nothing against the Lib Dems. I just think, give Labour more say in the House, in Parliament. The numbers have slowly dwindled since the 2019 general election on the amount of MPs that the Conservatives had. It's quite crazy, really, when you think about it. But obviously, the general election will be the big one, the one that we're all looking forward to. But this is a tiny little insight, another little insight into what could potentially happen at the local election, and perhaps what could further along happen at the next general election, whenever that may possibly be, guys. But what do you think of this leaked memo? What do you guys think of these numbers? And do you think it makes sense that they blame Nadine Dorries and Chris Pincher for the potentially outcomes of these by-elections, guys? What do you guys honestly think? Let me know down in the comment section below. Like, share and subscribe as always. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.